Faster, higher, stronger. It sounds like inspiration, until you realize it's why you're exhausted. You're not lazy. You're just drowning in a culture that worships velocity. Because in the West, you weren't raised to be. You were raised to improve. The phrase Sidious, Altius, Fortius, Latin for faster, higher, stronger, was coined in 1894, not by an athlete, but by a French priest. And when the modern Olympics were founded, this became its beating heart. But here's what they don't tell you about that priest, Henri Didon. He wasn't just creating a motto. He was encoding an entire worldview into 3 words. A worldview that would outlive every Olympic record. But it didn't stop at sports. This motto mirrored the era's bigger obsession: industrial conquest, empire, growth at all costs. It wasn't just about jumping farther. It was about proving you were better, that you deserved to lead, to win, to matter. The Olympic spirit never left. It just put on a business suit. Today, the same ideology powers your work, your wellness, even your weekend. The apps say, track your steps. The calendar says, schedule your joy. The job says, optimize or fall behind. Even recovery has a scoreboard. Your meditation app gives you streaks. Your therapy has metrics. Your grief has a timeline. Everything that should be unmeasurable gets measured. We've turned being human into a performance review. And at the center of it all, motivational speakers selling Olympic-style pressure in TED Talk form. They tell you, you can do anything if you just want it enough. It sounds empowering, but it's not. It's a trap. Because most of us didn't choose what we want. We were told what to want. Repetition makes it feel like desire, but it's just programming. Schopenhauer put it this way: man can do what he wills, but he cannot will what he wills. In simpler terms, you can act on your desire, but you don't choose the desire itself. That line collapses the entire self-help industry. Think about it. When did you first want to be successful? When did you first feel behind? When did productivity become a virtue and rest become guilt? You inherited these hungers. They were planted before you could think critically about whether you actually wanted them. The cruel irony? The more you chase these inherited desires, the further you drift from who you actually are. Western culture didn't just normalize striving, it ritualized it. Progress became proof of worth. Rest became rebellion. But what if your exhaustion isn't a personal failing? It's a system running exactly as designed. The philosopher Byung-Chul Han describes the modern person not as oppressed, but self-exploited. Today, everyone is an entrepreneur of the self, exploiting themselves until collapse. This isn't just hustle culture. It's a worldview. That value comes from acceleration, that you only exist if you're improving. We've created what Han calls the Achievement Society, where depression isn't seen as a response to impossible demands, but as personal weakness, where anxiety isn't a rational reaction to constant pressure, but a character flaw to optimize away. You're not just competing with others anymore. You're competing with an infinite scroll of possible selves. Every version of who you could become haunts who you are. Even Nietzsche, often misunderstood as a prophet of strength, warned us. His concept of the will to power wasn't a call to endless conquest. It was a reflection on how deep our need is to overcome meaninglessness. But what happens when all you're overcoming is yourself? Nietzsche saw this coming. He described a future where people would optimize themselves into numbness, achieving everything while feeling nothing, like scrolling through a perfectly curated life, wondering why it feels empty. We've become what he feared, people who have won the game by forgetting why they were playing. The tragedy isn't that we're not achieving enough. It's that we're achieving everything except what matters. In much of Eastern philosophy, the problem isn't striving, it's the attachment to striving. While the West tends to ask, "How far can I go?" Eastern traditions often ask, "Why am I going?" Taoist sage Laozi wrote, "Nature does not hurry, yet everything is accomplished." Stillness isn't laziness, it's wisdom moving at the pace of life. In Zen Buddhism, there's a concept called beginner's mind, approaching everything with openness, free from preconceptions. But notice, it's not about becoming better at having beginner's mind. It's about returning to what you already are. The Buddha's first insight wasn't that life contains suffering. It's that life is suffering. Specifically, the suffering of constantly wanting things to be different than they are, including wanting yourself to be different. Schopenhauer, heavily influenced by Eastern thought, flipped the Western script. He believed that desire was not strength. It was suffering. That same insight, echoed from Buddhist and Hindu thought, dismantles the entire Western promise of self-made mastery. You don't need to overcome your limits. You need to question the origin of your longing. Western philosophy gave us the tools to build. Eastern philosophy gave us the wisdom to know when to stop building. But we've forgotten how to stop. So if you feel tired, unmotivated, like you're falling behind, maybe you're not broken. Maybe you're just reacting, normally, to an unnatural pace. You weren't born to optimize yourself like an app. You weren't made to run sprints through every season of your life. If your goals feel hollow, or someone else's, they probably are. There's a reason why the most profound moments of your life probably happened when you weren't trying to improve anything, when you were just present. A conversation that changed you, a sunset that stopped you, a laugh that surprised you, a moment of understanding that arrived unscheduled. These weren't achievements. They were arrivals. What if the next evolution of humanity isn't faster or stronger, but softer, slower, and more self-aware? What if real power is knowing when to pause? What if wisdom isn't about having more answers, but about being comfortable with fewer questions? The world told you to chase, but you are allowed to arrive. You are allowed to be exactly where you are, not as a stopping point before the next improvement, but as a destination worth honoring. You are allowed to want what you actually want, not what you think you should want. You are allowed to rest without earning it. You are allowed to be ordinary, to be enough, to be done becoming and just be. The world keeps chasing, but you don't have to. The world will keep demanding faster, higher, stronger. But you can choose to arrive. And in that arrival, you might discover something the endless race never offered: the profound relief of being exactly who you are. Not who you could become, not who you should become, but who you are, right here, right now, in this unrepeatable moment. That's not giving up. That's waking up.